we're back on Liquid Lunch, and we hope you've been enjoying our show so far. And now we have Brenda Borenstein of Organized Zone with us to talk to us about the issue of hoarding and what can be done about it. Welcome, Brenda.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Thanks. Great to have you. So, what is this whole thing about hoarding? It's been in the media a lot. It's been even on television shows, like I believe Private Practice did an issue about it. I saw that, and it's also been in the news a lot. What is the whole thing about hoarding, and what brings it on?
Well, it's coming to surface now, like you see through all the media and everything, but it's how people live, and they say it's 4% of the population are hoarders, which is enormous. And this is what I've been doing since 2001, specializing in hoarding, and it's just unbelievable because it's coming to the light, and I try to explain to people what I do, but they have no idea. But now with all the media, they say, oh, I've seen that on TV. Do people really live like that? And it's worse. It's worse than you see, because what you see in a 30-minute show is not reality. Because when I go in with my team, we have a much bigger dynamic than what you see on TV.
So why don't you walk us through what happens? You are a professional organizer specializing in hoarding. What happens? What happens when you get that call and they actually make the call even to come to you, right? Because they have to recognize there's a problem in order to do that. And then how do you work it through? Like, maybe you can give us a few examples of that.
So when people call me, it's more of a desperate situation. So they've had someone who's come into their apartment or their condo from management, and the secret is out now. And so either the health department is going to come in, or it's a fire hazard, or there's something, there has to be a reason, because they're going to be evicted or something's threatening them. A lot of the hoarders are isolated, and so they don't have many friends, or nobody's been to their apartment or their home, and it's a very, very scary thing. So I will get the frantic call that someone has to come in to help them, and they're nervous, and I'll go in and I take a mask with me. And most recently I had one that I walked in and I thought there were animals living there.
Oh my God.
And the smell is the first giveaway, and so if you have neighbors, it's not very pleasant.
What kind of animals?
There were no animals.
Dogs, cats?
There were no animals.
There were no animals.
That's right.
Just how bad it was.
Yeah, it's just I thought
So
from
like
the smell.
garbage food and stuff? They don't take out the food? Or
Sometimes they can't get to a washroom.
Oh.
Sometimes
So you're talking the smell of urine and human feces?
Absolutely. Or sometimes I walked into a place and the woman wasn't wearing a mask. And I walked in, and about 3 minutes later my chest started to burn. And I walked out to the balcony so I could breathe. And I said, what is that smell? And she says, I don't smell anything. And I had to take a few deep breaths because I couldn't breathe, and then I put on my mask. And so whether it was the dust or a spray, or you never know what it is, but it's just an accumulation, years gone by, of an addiction, which is hoarding. So whether they're accumulating it from either shopaholics or anything that's not nailed down, they'll take home that's free. Papers they're afraid to get rid of anytime they've moved. When you move, sometimes you have a few boxes in the basement that you haven't gone through, and it can stay there for a few years, 5 years even. But if you can imagine a whole house like that, not having a bed to sleep on, a couch to sit on, a table to eat on.
So
Wow.
they can't get to the bathroom because there's too much clutter?
It's happened before.
Right.
That they can't. That they have to go to outside restrooms.
Wow.
It is not a place that can be lived in. And so if you have neighbors, if you're in a condo or an apartment, then of course they would bring in, the city to...
Yeah, because it's a disease pool, right?
Right.
It's very dangerous.
Goes through the vents, and it's very dangerous.
So, what you're doing is pretty remarkable. I don't think that a lot of people could even take it on, even to muster up the nerve to go in and face that smell. How then do you click with the person, get them to trust you enough?
That's the key.
To get the place cleaned up.
So the key is trust, because they don't trust. And hoarding happens from a very young age. There's something traumatic that happened, a loss.
So there's a psychological reason behind it.
Absolutely. So you have to be sensitive to it. And I go in there without judgment, because you can't say, how do people live like that? Because there's a reason for everything. And so I go in there and I have a conversation, and we talk about, candidly, how can I help? What are the goals? To live here? To move from here? And then we start with the consultation, and it's very difficult to move around oftentimes, and they're embarrassed or ashamed, or they're not, or they feel dead about it. And so, and then it's not just me alone who goes in. I am a team. I am a team of a handful of organizers. I have junk removal. I've got shredders. I've got toxic waste disposal. I've got a laundry service. I have a painting service, because there's so much involved when you're dealing with a hoarder, that all of those things have to be in place for you to move on, because there's going to be an enormous amount of an exodus of garbage, of recycling, of toxic waste. People throw away money like it's garbage. Buy things the same way.
Would you need also in some cases a psychologist or somebody to accompany you?
Well, they don't work with us at the site. I work with the client one-on-one, and I don't claim to be a therapist. However, I've dealt with over 2,000 clients since I started, so I do have an understanding for it. But we do hope that, and we refer them to therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists. A lot of them get medicated.
So can you walk us through maybe a few of your best case scenarios type of things? Like,
I'll tell you the most fresh.
How you solved it,
It's like a crime, right?
Yeah, well, what you did and how it came to be, how you helped this person become less of a hoarder, or just, the whole case scenario thing, the before and after type of thing.
So I'll tell you the one that's freshest in my mind from last week. And she was a shopaholic. And it's
What's a shopaholic?
A shopaholic, not you. So
I have been accused.
I was going to say, you're asking what's a...
Okay, so, I'm a shopaholic in terms of hoarding is something different.
Okay, so explain that.
So the client who we were dealing with last week, and most hoarders are very lovely people, highly intelligent. That's across the board. So I actually worked on her place 5 years ago. And she worked with us, and it was very difficult for her to work with us. And I remember she had change all over the floor, and she had clothes everywhere. And when I say everywhere, if I could show you a visual next time, I will. And because you couldn't see a couch or a table or a counter or a washroom or a bed or the rooms.
All covered in clothing.
Right, mountains and mountains and mountains of bags you see tags everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not anywhere near that. Thank you.
So what would happen would be that we would walk in. So that we were there 5 years ago, and she was in a jam, and she had to stop at, let's say, day 5 because she couldn't take it emotionally anymore. She didn't seek the recommended help that we suggested. So 5 years later, a situation where they knocked on her door to check the windows. It's a building. And so the unit manager got involved and said, you better get this fixed or you could be evicted from your place. It's detrimental to the neighbors. So we came in, and I asked my client not to be there. I made sure this time that she was seeking some type of treatment with the doctor. She said she was. And because we can't work with her because it would be way too painful for her to make a decision on the items. There might have been 300,000 items throughout the unit.
So when you say you asked your client not to be there, she was the client? 'Cause
Yes.
I was thinking building managers could...
Forced her to call, right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so you wanted her not there so that you could, because otherwise you'd be there for 3 years.
Well, it's just...
How about this one?
Yeah, and it's not even about lifting up the shirt because, like, there's 300,000 items, and truly through papers or, a beaded necklace, or there's so much stuff. So it's a matter of eliminating, so we have a pathway first, which is always the first step, and find whatever space we can. And there's no walking space. I don't, you have no idea how someone could live there. There's not an inch of space anywhere. So you look for obvious garbage. You look for newspapers or old magazines, and you hope that you have that in place, that those things could go. Very soiled clothes. You hope that you can send those out to be laundered so that you can make a pathway. She happened to have a balcony. We used the balcony, and that was our saving grace.
Wow.
Yeah, we had 2 garbage people working full-time, taking out the garbage and the Goodwill constantly for 8 days.
Wow.
8 days it
8
took you to
days.
clean this place?
Yeah,
Wow.
we had to throw out the couch. The couch was it was very soiled once we found it. It was a huge exodus of items, but she ended up having, she cried, hyperventilating at the end, saying, "I cannot believe this is my space. It's unbelievable."
Cried
like
as
she
a
was.
happy cry,
It was a happy cry. It was
like
a happy
therapeutic?
cry, a therapeutic, such an awe, and many that keeps us going because you work so hard in a place for the results, always for the client, to make them so happy and to make them have a space that they can live in and function in, that they could bring someone up, that they have a space to eat, that they can find their clothes in the morning. Very simple things that people take for granted, hoarders have to deal with.
So how does it get to that point? Like, how does it get to a point like where a person is so taken with this hoarding issue that they can actually live like that? Obviously, once you do your bit and you help them, and then they can see that they don't have to live like that anymore, so that's the solution. But how does it actually get to that point to begin with? Where does the issue come from? Or is there many things that bring on hoarding?
There's many things that bring it on, and it starts when they're young. There's something traumatic that happened. I had a client whose parents died in a car accident when she was 9 years old. She didn't grow up with a mother. So from that loss, she started the hoarding. And so that was a lifelong
And what
thing.
did the hoarding mean to her? The collection of goods was something that she could hold on to? Or?
Security.
Yes, security.
Security. And
Stability, I guess?
somewhat, because when I speak to them and I say, you have all of this quantity around you, where is the quality? Is it your daughter? Is it your mother? Is it your husband? Enjoy the quality of your life, not the quantity. And, and that's really how we start off, with the trust and thinking what's really important to you.
And have you been in a situation where people are living like this as a family? Like, I don't know how you could live like that as a family, how little children could function in an environment like that, but have you come across that?
Many times. The toys, the constant buying, it's a dysfunctional family, a family that needs help, so they go out and they buy things, or they attain things, or even, doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, hoarding has no discrimination. So you can attain things either way, and it's just unbelievable that people can live like that, but they do.
Is it usually like one person though who's like
Behind it all?
really has the problem, or do you see families where they're all like have this hoarder mentality?
So you can have a very cluttered home and need Organized Zone to come in and to declutter, and it's a real big shake-up, and we have 2 or 3 garbage bins, enormous, at the end of the job, completely filled, but that's not hoarding.
Okay.
Because it's still, they have hoarding mentality, but not to the extreme of a hoarding like some of the shows that you've seen. Those people are more isolated.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the ones who are the worst are usually living alone. Do they own versus rent?
No.
Does it make any difference?
No, it
or
does,
it could
it's
be
either
could be
or.
either?
Yeah.
Well, are they in massive debt though? It sounds like everything they have, they just keep spending and hoarding.
No, because they don't always buy. So, they can take, CIBC could have calendars for the new year. They'll take all of them. The flyers that they see at Shoppers, they could take that. Anything that's free, anytime they get a coffee, they're going to keep the cup.
Okay, so they just can't let go of anything or throw anything
Anything.
out. There's an attachment or some kind of value associated with the item that you shouldn't throw it away.
Perceived value. I
Perceived
guess.
Perceived,
it's
or they have
it's a bunch of garbage, right? But-
or there's purpose to it. The reason that they have kept all these bags is because of this. The reason they've kept the
Okay.
lid
In
is
their
because
mind,
this.
it has some kind of value to them.
But do
Right.
they actually use it or reuse it? Or
Never.
Never.
But they have the
this-
intention.
They have the intention, but they actually don't go through with it.
Right. So oftentimes I'll say, well, tell me the purpose and your intention, and my team is going to step on your coattails and make it